This is Monday Night Reading. This is started with a simple idea that I had because with having one foot in fiction and one foot in nonfiction for most of my publishing career, I felt frustrated that nonfiction authors didn't automatically get readings. Fiction authors get readings. Nonfiction authors rarely get readings unless it's a um, esteemed memoirist, or maybe an academic with something super brilliant to say, but not in the way fiction authors get them routinely all the time, everywhere. So we decided to change that. Monday Night Reading, we feature top free book workshop published authors and authors who are in progress. And how it works is the author reads from their book, excerpts they've chosen. We also to have chats in between the excerpts, and you can ask questions too if one occurs to you. We ask you to listen, and we also ask you to participate in this way, to put in the chat what resonates with you, lines you love, anything that touches you, makes you think. And then we share that chat with the author, and it's a real gift to them. Um, this is a really special night because we're welcoming Josh Spodek, who is an alum of Top Free Book Workshop. We just figured it out while you were all assembling that Josh was in the winter 2021 cohort with Laura, Gina Cox, Trisha Tamp, yeah, Susie DeVille, all these like big heavy hitters, and it's your turn now, Josh. I have been waiting for this day. I have been waiting for this day. I still remember reading an early draft of your book, first version you created in workshop, and just feeling just in my heart so moved. There's one story in particular that has will always stay with me, and it's about the ski hill, and I'll never ever forget it. So, or the sledding hill. And that stayed with me and will stay with me for the rest of my life. So I'm so excited that you're here. I also want to point out that Josh is, if you don't know Josh, you might have seen Josh on The Daily Show. You might have seen Josh recently in a big feature in the New York Times. Josh is living off the grid in Manhattan, just about 23 miles north of me right now, and is all batteried up, all solar powered up for this event and ready to rock. Welcome, Josh. I'm so happy that you're here.
Yeah, you said I'm an alum. I'm a proud alum. And when I put everything off to make sure I could focus on that course, there were some things in life, but I knew that in the Sprintapalooza, I finished the first draft in that time. And I thought I was done then, but it was really yeah, so much more after that.
So much more, so
But it
much
was such a
more.
great experience. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad, and we love having you in community. Before we get too far, I want to introduce Laura Stone, who is my Dean of Students, and Sade Amherd, who is also on our team and handles marketing. And Laura is going to share a bio for Josh.
I would love to. Hey, Josh, good to see you again.
Hey.
Josh Spodek disconnected his Manhattan apartment from the electric grid in May of 2022. He didn't know how he'd last more than a day, and it's now December of 2024, and he's not only still off grid, he's managed to continue his podcast, The Sustainable Life, and publish his groundbreaking book, Sustainability Simplified, while producing 100,000% of waste as the average New Yorker. Joshua Spodek is also a four-time TEDx speaker, professor at NYU, and a leadership coach. He holds a PhD in astrophysics as well as an MBA, and helped build an X-ray observational satellite for NASA, and holds 6 patents. He's earned praise as the best and brightest from Esquire magazine's Genius issue, was featured on The Daily Show, has been quoted and profiled by ABC, CBS, NBC, Forbes, The New York Times, and The Wall Street Journal. Without question, we can all learn something from Dr. Spodek. The best time to adapt any of Josh's sustainability practices is 20 years ago, but the second best time is now. AJ, and I will leave it in the chat how folks can stay connected to Josh.
Hey, we always love Laura's bios. Josh, hold your book up again, and then think, Laura, you have your copy too. Sustainability Simplified is the book that we'll be reading from today. I see Naren is here. Josh's publisher is here. Do you want to wave? Yay. That's so nice of you to come and support. Okay, Josh, you're going to read an excerpt. Before we begin, Laura's going to be putting a link in the chat to order Josh's book. So I'm going to ask all of you, if you don't have a copy, if you will please pick one up for yourself and maybe as a gift the holidays, a gift for someone that you love, who you know cares about sustainability, climate change, our planet. This is a wonderful book for them to read. But I have a second ask, and that is I want you to leave an Amazon review. Amazon reviews are very hard to get. We might ask 200 times and get 10 of them. So the cool thing is, whatever you notice today about these readings, whatever lines stand out to you, whatever touches you today, you can just take that and write about that in the Amazon review. You can just do that. It does not need to be complicated. So Laura's going to give you a link to that as well in the chat so that you can go and leave a review. If you just took 3 minutes after this call today, you could get it done and it would be a huge service to Josh. But I have one request I normally don't make. And I want you, if you are so inclined, I hope you just take a moment to go onto your local library's website. Or if you go to the library routinely, you can do this in the library. Please go request Josh's book from your local library, because this is in keeping with what matters to Josh. And if the library has it there for multiple people to check out, I know that would just thrill Josh to have it there. So if we can just, I know it's 3 asks instead of 2. Buy, review, ask your library, but this is how we can make a difference in the world in our own small ways. Anything else you want them to do, Josh?
Well, I will mention that you said it'll help me. I'm mission driven on this. My goal is not for people to be going out in the cold and charging. It's to have a culture that is, right now it pays lip service to sustainability, but doesn't really practice it. And in the future that I am helping to bring about, we don't have to do those things. Read the book for all the stuff, but I'm mission driven. It helps the mission. It helps us achieve sustainability, which means safety, health, security, nationally, globally, locally.
Yes. So those are my asks as we enjoy Josh for the next hour and talk with Josh. Okay, I'm going to ask you my questions that I always ask it. Are you ready? You prepared for my questions?
Yes.
Okay. For whom did you write this book, Josh?
This book is for people who, all right, it's not for people who are like, what's the science? This is for people who know that there's a problem, want to act, but haven't figured out how.
Great. I think that's most of us. And then what is your core message to that reader?
We tend to think that sustainability means deprivation and sacrifice. The core message is that when you act following the Spodek method, then you will find joy, reward, and if you then learn how to bring it to others, you'll bring them joy. They will feel gratitude toward you. If you teach them, they will share it with others, and so on and so on and so on.
It's different than what you originally had in workshop, but the joy piece is still there.
Yeah.
And that's what I like, is that you aren't talking about this in terms of, yes, we all must do this. You're talking about it in the sense of this is something that can make you happy.
And I'm speaking with something that almost, as far as I know, no one in sustainability can speak with practical, hands-on, personal experience, living more sustainably.
Yes. And
And
your promise to readers, Josh?
that if you act, you'll be glad you did. You'll wish you had earlier. But if you just think about it, you won't get that. If you just like debate paper versus plastic, you'll never get there. But if you act first with the mindset shift, followed by continual improvement, you'll wish you had earlier. You'll be glad you did. You want to bring people along to bring them joy.
I love it. I love it. Okay, set up our first excerpt, please.
So the first one I don't think needs setup because I'm going to start with the introduction. And this is the introduction. It's you don't have to know anything about me. Yeah, I was trying to think if there's any setup necessary for this, but I don't think there is.
Okay. So again, everybody, those of you who have been in Monday Night Reading, please lead the way with how we like to support authors during Monday Night Reading. And if you see us do it, please follow along in the chat. Go ahead, Josh.
All right, everyone ready? So I'm gonna read off the screen. I hope that's okay because the one light facing me, I don't have another light in here. It's possible that battery may run out in the middle, in which case I'll be in the dark. But here goes. Introduction. Why did a construction worker give me $20? I wasn't always known as the guy who disconnected from the electric grid in Manhattan, or who takes 5 years and counting to fill one load of trash at home. Over 8 billion people are alive today, and over half of them live in cities. I never expected to be the first I know of those 4 billion in cities to take such a bold step. I expected to fail and to have to reconnect my apartment after a few days. I had no practical experience with disconnecting from the power grid. I didn't expect to find nearly everything I'd been told about practicing sustainability was backward, including advice by prominent environmentalists. I was led to expect that steps towards sustainability meant having to sacrifice some of the best parts of life, and if too many people tried, we might revert to the Stone Age or Mad Max dystopia. I knew countless reasons to feel discouraged, helpless, and hopeless. Instead, I discovered a vast global misunderstanding of our environmental problems and therefore no effective solutions, including from prominent environmentalists. No one was doing anything wrong. It's just that, as any performer will tell you, until you perform, it's all theory and talk. You have to practice the basics and develop hands-on experience. As far as I know, I became the first of 4 billion city dwellers to go meaningfully beyond talking theory to hands-on actions and solutions. I learned that nearly every environmental issue making headlines and discussed by heads of governments and corporations were effects, not causes. So their would-be solutions were more distracting than effective. When I uncovered the root causes, which this book reveals, I saw why people feared facing them. They make us feel vulnerable, insecure, and other ways we don't like feeling. But when I did, I found when I implemented actual solutions, they brought results the opposite to what I was led to expect: liberation, freedom, community, saving money, saving time, and more benefits. Do such results sound too good to be true? I thought so too. Read on. One day in June 2022, when I picked up a few pieces of litter in my local park, I heard someone thank me. I look over to see a guy sitting on a bench wearing a construction vest. Next to him sat a helmet. I guess he was off duty. I wasn't in a hurry, so we talked. I shared how I picked up litter daily, but clarified that doing so didn't reduce waste. It only kept it from the ocean a little longer. The greater value of the habit was in helping lead me to buy less stuff that could become litter. I told him how it'd take years to fill a load of trash. He asked how. I told him most of my life I couldn't stop myself from stocking my kitchen with Doritos and Cherry Garcia, despite trying, and felt guilt and shame. Then I told him how picking up litter made me feel disgust for packaging, which helped me shift to fresh local produce. I no longer needed willpower. I pointed out another benefit, that once I found fresh local produce more delicious, I could eat as much as I wanted of the food that I loved and stayed fit. He pointed to his body, which was obese, and said, "I wish I could change, but I'm too far gone." During the pandemic, the northwest corner of the park had become overridden with heavy drug users. We were within sight of that corner, but not earshot. I pointed to their encampment and asked him, "You know about the people over there who use heavy drugs, right?" "Yes," he said. I said, "I've gotten to speak to some of them. They tell me they're too far gone and can't change either." I paused, then asked, "Can they?" He looked at me. I could see the gears turning in his mind. "You're right," he said. "I can." I hadn't said he could stop. So why did he change his mind to say he could? He knew they could stop, even if they believed they couldn't. He connected that if they could, he could too. He got out a wad of money from his pocket, peeled off a crisp $20 bill, and thrust it at me. "Take this," he said. I didn't understand why he wanted to give me cash. I declined. He insisted. We went back and forth until he told me he would get more from what I said if I took it. So I did, saying I'd give it to charity. "No," he said. "Spend it on yourself." In my experience, conversations about the environment or obesity risk becoming emotional minefields, especially with strangers. Yet beyond embracing what I had said, he planned to act on it and rewarded me, a stranger he'd never see again, with cash. How did I know what to say? Why do I pick up litter every day? Why did I speak to heavy drug users my neighbors mostly fear and avoid? My mission. My goal is not to help construction workers I happen to meet in the park, though I'm happy to when the occasion arises. My definition of leadership is to help people do what they already wanted, but haven't figured out how. My mission is to help lead American and global culture to restore where people expect that acting more sustainably will bring not deprivation or sacrifice, but liberation, freedom, self-awareness, fun, joy, and other rewarding results. This book recounts how I noticed this unmet demand for leadership and how to fill it. Since I already taught and coached leadership, I saw how to teach others in experiential courses, workshops, and online communities. These ways work. Anyone can lead in sustainability. I've made them available at spodekmethod.com. People who started out claiming that they knew nothing about sustainability or leadership became inspirational leaders themselves within months. This book will help you transform in weeks what took me years. You will love the results since they will come from your deepest values. You will feel liberated from oppressive obligations and values others impose on you. You will work hard and you will wish you had started earlier. You will share with others joy, fun, and freedom. Asleep at the wheel? Quote, the vast majority of US companies are asleep at the wheel when it comes to tackling climate change, end quote, reported The Guardian a decade ago. Last year, The Hill reported, quote, DC is asleep at the wheel when it comes to climate, end quote. Everyone seems to think someone else is at the wheel, just not acting. Scientists, educators, journalists, activists, and business people act as if I do my part, I'll help wake up the people asleep at the wheel, then they'll act. Yet no one is steering. Many talk big about sustainability and do things that signal they're acting sustainable, like buying carbon offsets, but they're inadvertently exacerbating the problems they want to solve. Nearly all indicators of our environmental problems continue unabated: deforestation, ocean plastic, greenhouse emissions, extinctions, etc. Environmental catastrophes are compounding, any one of which seems too hard to solve. It's easy to feel overwhelmed. As different as they appear, they all result from our behavior, which results from our stories, role models, images, beliefs, and what makes up our culture. If we don't change our culture, we can fix problem after problem, but we'll end up back here. No profession is designed to develop the skills and experience necessary to change our culture. Not science, education, activism, politics, engineering, business, or any of the loudest voices. If everyone only does what they're skilled at, everyone will feel they're doing their part, and we will never change course. No one is asleep at the wheel. No one is at the wheel. If only there's someone in charge to take responsibility. It would help if a position existed whose role was to fix the environment. It doesn't exist. If we all do our parts, we won't change course, no matter how much we protest, write, vote, donate, innovate technology, tax carbon, or buy more things marked as green or renewable. Many of those actions will cause us to accelerate the system causing our environmental problems, as we'll see. Our cultural institutions, including Washington, D.C., Wall Street, Silicon Valley, and academia, propose solutions that, however well-intentioned, accelerate the results of our culture yet more, including its environmental damage. Institutions at the core of a culture, trying to change that culture, end up like the horror movie when we learn the call is coming from inside the house. Why has no one led so far? Why is no one at the wheel? Many people spread facts, numbers, and instructions, but are not leading in the field of sustainability. Recall that by lead, I mean to help people do what they already wanted to, but haven't figured out how. Why is no one leading in sustainability? We're a team with a role unfilled. To clarify, consider team sport like the America's Cup, where boats push the frontier of ship design. Designers are part of the team. Since they know the ship best, should they also pilot it? No, their skills aren't relevant to piloting. They'd probably capsize. Skippers skipper, not engineers. Everyone does their role best, not each other's job. So should we expect scientists, teachers, journalists, activists, and politicians to change culture? No, they aren't trained to. Those roles are critical, but we have plenty of people to fulfill them. We can do what no one has yet, to lead in sustainability. We need leaders at every level, from global to national, state, and every level to local community, church, workplace, school, and family. Since we can't lead others to live by values we don't, we have to start by leading ourselves. Hence, despite all my training and experience in science, business, education, and more, I focus on developing sustainability leadership of yourself and others over science and technology in order to change culture. This book is for people who want to do all they can, not to blame, but to take responsibility and solve our environmental problems. The challenge is as great as any humans have faced. This book will show you what you can do and how your part will make a difference. You will feel called and inspired. That's my first one.
Awesome. Good setup. I love that. So I want to stop for a moment and ask a couple of questions. So if you're just joining us, Josh Spodek is reading from Sustainability Simplified, and Laura Stone will put some more links in the chat. If you don't have a copy yet, we encourage you to buy it. We definitely want you to review it, and we are also asking people to request it at their local library. It's an extra step, and if you don't have a library card, it can be challenging, which is just your clue that you need a library card. That's what that is. But Josh, you are living off the grid in the West Village, yeah?
Yes.
So the average person in America might think that would be a sacrifice, right? That you're missing out on a whole bunch of stuff. Your core message is, it's joyful. It's not a sacrifice. So tell me what's joyful about living off the grid in Manhattan.
So first, of the people who would consider this extreme and so forth, marked me about a decade ago as one of those people. I grew up thinking, whoever dies with the most toys wins. I flew all around. It was, that's what was good. And now since I've read that part about the northwest corner of it's Washington Square Park here in Greenwich Village, overridden with fentanyl and meth and crack and things like that. If you talk to someone who's addicted to, say, heroin, and you say, if you get off the heroin, you're not going to get that jolt of euphoria or whatever they get, but you'll get more joy out of eating healthy, working, earning your living, exercising, regular sleep. They would say, are you kidding? You don't know what you're talking about. This is better. And when you are addicted to, there's several chapters in my book on addiction. I've had on my podcast many addiction specialists. It's something I take very seriously, especially for people. My book also talks about people in my life. And I'll say in terms of people who gamble, if you gamble, you feel like a winner because every now and then you win, but you're net losing, right? That's how the casinos stay in business. If you feel like if you stop gambling, you'll stop winning, but you'll actually start winning. What I say in the book is, if you want to kick something that, like a dependence, like an addiction, you tell me what you fear losing, and I'll tell you exactly what you'll get more of.
Okay, so what do you get more of the way you're living now?
I mean, the quick, easy ones are money, time, control over my career, things like that. But much more, we think about environmental problems as something that's happening over there. And we say, well, when it comes here, we'll act. And maybe it's getting a little closer. There's been Katrina and the storms and things like that and wildfires. It's also in us now. Those are the physical manifestations of what's inside of us. We're more isolated than ever. We're more anxious, dependent. Suicides are up, anxiety, all these things. What we see happening out there is because of what's inside of us. This book is as much about resolving this inner conflict and also exposing what this inner conflict is as anything out there. So I'm an uncle, I'm not a parent, but to look children in the eye and say, I want to make a healthy, a future for you that's more healthy, secure, and safe. If we're actively contributing to the opposite of that, we can't say that. We either have to lie to ourselves or to them. This book is to enable us to look children in the eye and say, I am doing everything I can to make your future safer, healthier, more secure.
Okay, that's awesome. And I want to bring it back to how you're living, because tell me about a joyful day. Like, tell me about today. You were getting ready for this. It's freaking cold here in New York, and you were trying to charge up your battery, and tell me about the joy in that.
Well, I have to start with what I made for breakfast, which was my famous no package vegan solar powered stew.
Okay.
which is one of the things that I've done because in the winter, a couple winters ago when it got dark, I started volunteering a lot more. So I pick up food from overstock food from stores and I bring it to the community fridge where anyone can pick it up for free. And as it happens, people who pick up free stuff don't usually take the fresh produce. So the volunteers I get a lot of free produce, vegetables and fruit and things like that. So one, I'm connecting with people in my community, neighbors, including the neighbors who are homeless, including neighbors who are can't afford a lot of things. Lovely people. I've had them on my podcast, but we're really good friends. So I've learned how to cook really cheap, but really delicious. My friends tell me, Josh, you don't have to say how much you love your food every single time you eat. I'm like, I can't help it. So this one was it was a split pea soup with carrots, sweet potato, and then um, some nutritional yeast and spices. What else was in there? Carrots. The sweet potatoes made it really sweet and really good. Anyway, it's all healthy ingredients. And then I top it with onions and nuts. Now I happen to have a bunch of avocados, which I don't buy, but they were extra. So food is probably my number one interaction with nature.
Mm,
And everyone, including me, like I used to think going to farmers market meant one, most people don't have access to them, but you want to get them access, shop at farmers markets if you can. This increases access to others who don't have access. And I used to go there and think, like, I couldn't tell kale from collard greens. I didn't know anything. I knew 5% of the stuff there, and I would just buy like cheese and bread. Now it's the opposite. I know 95%, and I'm looking for the weird things like stinging nettles. What's that? And I learned if you meet the vendors and get to know them, and you know to ask politely for like the bruised stuff, you get free vegetables, like totally free. And they thank me because it's less stuff that they have to take back to the farm to put in their compost. So what have I mentioned here? There's the volunteering, there's the food, there's connecting with the farmers markets, there's helping people who have less access than I do, saving money, saving time. This to me is wins. And through it all, I feel I don't know how this will come across to others. There's all these little pieces that I have to figure out how to put together. I feel like a child playing with Lego. And I used to love playing with Lego when I was a kid. I'm figuring out how to put things together to find a solution that works for everyone.
mhm.
So that's what's inside me. It's really the next thing that I read is going to talk about how what's in my heart is the people far away, the people who would be affected by me polluting. And by not polluting, I'm not hurting them. These people who are innocent. Well, I don't know if they're innocent. They didn't do anything to me. And I'm part of something. I mean, my peers on this, Dr. King, Mandela, Gandhi, Thoreau, these are the people that in my heart I'm spending time with, as well as the Hadza, the San, the Tsumani, the Kogi, the these people who are still barely hanging on, but living sustainably as humans have for 250,000 years. So people consistently call me extreme, but I'm traditional and I'm getting more and more in touch with them all the time.
Mm.
There's some answers. I don't know if that resonates with others, but that's my answer.
So much, Josh. So much. Set up the next excerpt.
So this is I think it describes itself because I was going, all right, I'm on the fifth floor of this building. To get up to the roof where I normally bring the solar panels is 11 flights up. And then usually I put them there and then come back down and work and then go back up again. So it's like 22 flights going up and down. And it doesn't that sound like a lot of work? Doesn't that like who wants to do that? Now, as a point of information, my goal is not for other people to have to do that. The goal is to change the world so that we live, I mean, so we no one was on the electric grid more than 100 years ago. No one flew more than 100 years ago. No one had plastic more than 100 years ago. And yet people were happy, healthy, and secure. But it looks like, am I doing this because like people want to see me as different, as doing something that they can't do? And so this describes I was really frustrated that I kept telling people what I was doing and they kept responding like, you're different. You're not like us. And I knew that if I just wrote the results, people would say, well, that's fine for you, but that's not me. So a lot of this book was this personal journey. And so this is part of that journey.
Okay.
Before mastering fields that require skills like sustainability and sustainability leadership, things look black and white. Either humanity saves itself or collapses. With mastery, we learn nuance, subtlety, and complexity. Everything we do that affects the environment affects everyone. When you know what works and how to do it, action becomes the antidote to helplessness, hopelessness, guilt, and shame. Sustainability is consistent with your values, whatever your background and leanings, conservative, liberal, libertarian, old, young, rich, poor, or however you identify yourself. Whatever your skills, the movement needs you. Whatever you give, you will get back more. It will increase your freedom, joy, fun, self-awareness, and love. I've led thousands of people through it, learning the Spodek method through practice after being convinced, cajoled, and coerced is like hearing music after only being lectured music theory. Continuing to practice is like singing or playing an instrument yourself. You express yourself in new ways. It's liberating. As the great dancer Martha Graham described, quote, your goal is freedom, but freedom may only be achieved through discipline. In the studio, you learn to conform, to submit yourself to the demands of your craft so that you may finally be free. Or as Navy SEAL Jocko Willink put it, discipline equals freedom. But my life is fine. Why should I engage? As more people asked me about disconnecting from the grid, I had to search to explain why I engaged so much. I had to climb 11 flights to put solar equipment on the roof, often twice a day. If people didn't understand why, they'd see me as a quirky guy or a zealot. I may be quirky, but I sensed I was motivated by universal human values. Climbing stairs and using solar was a distraction from them. But I couldn't at first identify my deepest motivations to communicate them. At first, I thought I might be feeling what Dr. King meant when he said unearned suffering is redemptive. But I wasn't suffering. After a few more weeks, I wondered if I was doing it for the exercise, since I would count climbing stairs as exercise on cardio days. But I could tell I wasn't doing it for exercise. After a few months, I wondered if I was doing it as a ritual. I have many rituals. I value that they raise my self-awareness. But again, on reflection, I saw I wasn't doing it as a ritual. The answer came after 9 months from an unexpected direction. The memorial service of a mentor of mine, Frances Hesselbein, who was a podcast guest, at a church in Midtown Manhattan on Pike Avenue. Frances had died in December at her home in Pennsylvania at 107 years of age. I had met her nearly a quarter century earlier when she spoke at a business school class. She became a mentor. Frances rose to prominence as CEO of the Girl Scouts from 1976 to 1990. She was the main person transforming them to reflect the nation's diversity, helping girls become anything they wanted, not just housewives. She was widely recognized for her leadership ability, including President Clinton awarding her the Presidential Medal of Freedom, renowned business author Peter Drucker calling her the best leader in America, and West Point appointing her to an endowed chair in its leadership department. She's known for her catchphrase, to serve is to live. Several eulogists quoted another favorite of hers, work is love made visible, which quoted the poet Khalil Gibran. I happened to sit behind the head of West Point's leadership department, Colonel Everett Spain, also podcast guest, and his colleague, Colonel Katie Matthew, both in their dressed Army Ranger uniforms. The quote prompted me to ask them about love, which I wouldn't usually think of discussing with soldiers. Nonetheless, they spoke of the love soldiers feel for their country, those at home that they protect, and fellow soldiers they trust their lives with. I appreciated what they shared, but didn't think more of it in the moment. After the memorial, perhaps thinking of Frances, I remembered a time that may seem unrelated at first. An elderly woman stopped me near my building to ask if I could help her cross the street. I was in a hurry, but put my arm out. She gripped it, and I helped her across. It was no big deal. It took maybe 2 minutes, but I felt elated from helping her. I felt even better for having been in a hurry. By chance, not much later, I read a story of Jocko Willink in his book Extreme Ownership. In Afghanistan, on patrol with less trained Afghani soldiers, they were fired upon. The SEALs turned to face the attack. The Afghanis fled. One was wounded and fell. His comrades left him in the line of fire. When the SEALs saw him, they ran into the line of fire to bring him to safety. I normally don't think of men, particularly warriors, as talking about feeling love for each other. I don't pretend to know what combat feels like. And an elderly woman crossing the street sounds incomparably different, but I saw a common thread through those stories. They involved helping the vulnerable and innocent, even when we don't have to, even when we struggle. It's deeply human to feel good because we struggle for what others need. It took me a few more weeks to process the meaning of work as love made visible, despite Francis having said it for decades. I saw climbing all those stairs in a new light. I was not doing it for myself, my health, or some abstract concept of the environment. I was doing it out of love for my fellow humans, in particular innocent ones that my polluting and depleting would cause to suffer. I also think of the billions of internally conflicted polluting and deplete. Sorry. I also think of the billions of internally conflicted people polluting and depleting who ache to stop but lack leadership, role models, and a vision of a brighter future. Alleviating suffering through personal action is not deprivation. It's love. Frances told me for decades, work is love made visible. She was quoting Gibran, but the sentiment came also from luminaries from countless cultures. Had I not lived this experience, I might think this talk sounds like someone I'm not, hippie, tree hugger, new age, or the like. I don't know what else to say though, because what motivated me was love born of deliberate, purposeful effort to live by my values when it was easier to procrastinate. I always knew something was wrong when extreme and admirable became the most common adjectives people called me. Both terms set me apart from them. People paint me as other or different. At least they want to. I let the description stand for a long time, but something wrong about them lingered. I couldn't put my finger on it. Francis's memorial led me to another realization. I wasn't acting on something extreme, quirky, or unique to me. I was acting on the most universal of human emotions and motivations. Moreover, I wasn't helping the environment in the abstract. I am helping people. I'm loving my neighbors as myself. I'm not just trying to avert future catastrophe. I'm alleviating suffering and subjugation here and now. I'm doing the most universally human behavior given the world we were born into. This realization revealed why even when people didn't understand me, when I felt too tired to climb the stairs, when my torn meniscus hurt, or whatever problem emerged, nothing in me considered giving up. Giving up would mean not comfort, but irresponsibility, comfort, cruelty. Giving up would mean not comfort, but irresponsibility, cruelty, and lack of integrity. That's the second one.
Powerful. Wow. So you've really changed this. So much of this book is about that journey. It
Yes.
speaks to the power of, yes, it's an extreme situation that you're in compared to how most Americans are living. And the fact that you're in, when we think off the grid, we always think it's in a remote location. And you're in the city, so there's a novelty in that. But describing that journey is actually really helpful in terms of the storytelling component, right? Because you had great stories in an earlier draft, but this is a whole new level of your own journey with that in that novelty experience. And it really, to me, what you just wrote really humanizes and makes it very personal what you're doing. So we understand from a heart place what you're doing.
Yeah, when the first draft was done, in a sense, that was just the starting point. That what I wrote the first time was really that book had been written many times. Here's what to do, here's how it'll be better. Unplugging the apartment, that was 10 years in. The beginning of that was when I looked at all the garbage in the world and I thought, well, I can't make a difference. Only governments and corporations can make a difference on the scale that we need. What I do doesn't matter, and all these other things. I didn't cause the problem, someone else did. And I challenged myself because the garbage that I produced, no one else could take responsibility for that. So I challenged myself to go for a week without packaged food, anticipating it wouldn't work. Actually, only years later, looking back, did I realize I wanted that experiment to fail. so that I could say, oh, I tried, someone else do it. And I found the opposite. I found that I liked the result. Now, there was a period of bland food for a while because I didn't grow up cooking from scratch. And this was cooking from scratch, but I had to learn how to do that. That took 6 months. But it was intrinsically rewarding. And a lot of this has been uncovering what that reward is. That is not just me, that's universal. That, and then all these myths that fall one by one, you know, that we're going to die at 30. That's going to be old age again. That we're not going to have, like, we don't have antibiotics or vaccines and things like that. Everyone thinks about the flight that takes them to family and not the flight that takes them away from family.
Mm.
So people who fly less spend more time with family. They've, and all these things that are like cheaper. McDonald's doesn't help poor people. It makes people poor. And that whole business model. Anyway, so the book goes into more depth on these things, but I am the journey is huge. And one big piece of it that is in the next part is that the workshops that I lead, I can lead people to go in 7 weeks, what took me 7 years.
So
Because
when
I didn't
you
have role models. I didn't know it was possible. I was fighting against my own resistance.
so when you say what took you to do it in 7 weeks, what took you, did you say 7 years or 10 years?
Well, the workshop is 7 weeks, so I use the word seven,
Seven
but
and seven.
what took me 10 years, really.
But where are you taking us? So what about people who are saying, I love that you are doing this and I would like to find joy, but perhaps not climb 11 flights of stairs so I can have a little bit of battery, right? So like I learned from you. This is what I remember is I learned from you to find what brings me joy and to to align my efforts to what's meaningful to me. So I don't know if that's part of it still, but what about, where are we ending up in 7 weeks?
So it's in corporate speak, because I do this stuff with corporations sometimes, it's a mindset shift followed by continual transformation, continual improvement. Now, I didn't say a mindset shift followed by perfection.
Mm-hmm.
So the mindset shift is key because if you believe that steps towards sustainability are burden, are sacrifice, then you might comply with someone asking you to, if someone says avoid straws, you're like, I don't want to hurt the turtle. I saw the video. For people who haven't seen the videos of it, people of a turtle with a straw caught in its nose. And it's a really awful sight. You might get compliance on one thing, but they'll feel like, okay, I did my part. Because it's from extrinsic motivation. It's telling them, here's what you have to do. Intrinsic motivation is you can manage with extrinsic. You can give people carrots and sticks and get them to, do stuff that you want them to, but they won't feel inspired. They won't do what they want to do. My goal is not for people to copy me. It's for them to do in their lives what works for them. So many people can do things. Many people, they'll do less. Many people do more. The point is it's based on them. The Spodek method brings out your emotions that are relevant to the environment that are deeply meaningful and powerful motivators. And when you act on them for your reasons, almost guaranteed the first one or two things you do are going to be minimal, sometimes even backward, but they're meaningful. And when they're meaningful, you'll do the next thing and the next thing. So I'm not worried about the y-intercept. I'm worried about the slope. And if you'll indulge me some mathematics, because I have a PhD in physics, also the second and third derivatives. And, I want really people rising. So you find the joy for you and apply it to sustainability yourself. And guaranteed, you're going to do more and more and more. And you'll share it with others. That's the other big thing. If you like it, and you know that if you share it with someone else, they will like it too, and they will thank you. And you can teach it to them. That spreads. So if each person tells at least one other person, that's exponential growth. That's the bottom-up part. Now, my podcast, I work with renowned leaders in business and politics and culture, sports. And I always say, for role models, like right now, Taylor Swift is probably in an airplane right now. That's the role models we have. So I'm helping to create role models who are authentically, genuinely, and for their own intrinsic reasons, acting more sustainably. And a lot of stuff in the book is how to set like role models from the past who have acted when they didn't have to. And I'm trying to set up a bit of competition among leaders to who's going to be the leader here to create the legacy that lasts centuries, maybe millennia, if we turn this around or when we turn this around. So it's a top down. I talk about my strategy, top down, bottom up, everywhere, all at once, starting here now with you and me. If I
Oh,
ever say just
yeah.
one of those things, everyone's like, what about the rest? So it's all of them, all of the above. And when it comes from joy, intrinsic motivation, it works.
I love that, and that's why I love your core message, because a core message has to be a mindset shift. It has to be a shift in perspective that's so profound that we're not the same. That we take it in and it changes us, and we go forward and take action based on that perspective. So I love that. How long is your next excerpt? Do you think we can do it?
Yeah, I think it's 5 minutes. I timed
Okay.
it earlier.
Let's do it. And then if anybody has a question that you would like to ask Josh, please put in the chat. Otherwise, I have some follow-up questions. So don't feel, if you don't have one, that's cool too. Go ahead, Josh, and set up this next excerpt.
Okay. It begins with a quote. I've thought about these problems for years and years. The Spodek method is what I needed to finally do something, end quote. Evelyn is someone in this book. She's actually here. I think she's on this call. And so she is someone that I taught to lead workshops. And so she leads other people in the workshop. Sorry, I didn't set that up. So I'm going to start again. I've thought about these problems for years and years. The Spodek method is what I needed finally to do something. Someone Evelyn taught said these words, a guy I've never met. He continued, quote, people think that sustainability means more expensive, but I'm saving so much money and I still have more free time. It's mind-blowing, end quote. He feels joy and gratitude, so he'll soon train others, who will train others, and so on. This movement is spreading without me. Before the workshop, Evelyn knew about our environmental problems, but had given up. During the workshop, she had struggled. She insisted that because she knew less science and hadn't done anything in the field of sustainability before, that she couldn't catch up to everyone else. She was divorced with 3 boys in joint custody, meaning no extra time or money. When she practiced the Spodek method, she couldn't get it to work. But she kept at it. Then it clicked, and she saw sustainability leadership as what she had looked for her entire life, especially since becoming a mom. As a result, she now spends more time with her sons doing more active things. The resulting meaning and purpose, plus mastering the technique, improved her relationship with her family and her ex-husband. Now she's teaching others, and they're telling her their equivalents. Soon, some of them will teach their cohorts and hear from the people they lead and inspire, which might be you. You read Beth's recommendation on page 20. Sorry, I didn't read that, but it's a recommendation of the workshop. It's glowing. Wouldn't you love to feel inspired to write such a recommendation, especially about something you care deeply about but had mostly given up on? Wouldn't you love someone to write such words about you for having led them? You can do both. Through the Spodek Method How-To Workbook, a free download from spodekmethod.com, you can learn to lead yourself and others. Advanced courses can enable you to lead your own workshops and bring liberation and freedom to people like you. They will thank you for it. They will write recommendations about your leadership as Beth did of mine. Evelyn kept saying to me, you said this would happen, each time she found liberation or joy where she expected feelings of loss or deprivation. Or someone would thank her for leading them to do what she thought or would feel like pressure or burden. She'd continue, I didn't believe you, but it keeps happening. She still says it. I still say it, as I find yet more freedoms and ways to appreciate nature and people. There is no way, 10 years ago, on the day before I started avoiding packaged food for a week, that I could have predicted doing the experiments that led to writing this book. I would never have predicted that I would be the first of 4 billion people that I know of to disconnect from the electric grid while living in a city, to discover 12,000-year history leading to our situation, to find no bad guys, only procrastination, to discover liberation, freedom, joy, and fun, to refine a way to bring others these results, and to see them lead yet others to these results. One of my most liberating and freeing discoveries was to see that there are no bad guys perpetrating our problems. Sabrina and Kevin, earlier characters in the book, they didn't intend to start dominance hierarchies. 12,000 years ago, circumstances happened to make such transformations possible that nobody could have foreseen to create our culture today of pollution, depletion, addiction, and imperialism. There are no good guys asleep at the wheel either. We are the ones who can engage and act to lead ourselves and others to change our global culture to restore stewardship. If we only do what we're good at, then we will all do our parts, feel good about ourselves, and keep accelerating the problems. I've heard many reasons not to act on sustainability. The day before my week avoiding packaged food, I believed all of them. Midweek, I may have believed them even more. Since then, people have told me reasons they don't act. All sounded sincere. All sounded like they had no choice but to keep doing what they were doing. Each reason made the person sound like one of the good guys. No matter how unique their reasons sounded to them, I believed a version of every one of them for myself and heard others say them too. A main part of any culture is its unquestioned, unchallenged, untested beliefs. No matter how true a person considers their reasons, not one of them had meaningfully questioned, challenged, or tested their beliefs. They were as confident, passionate, and wrong as slaveholders who proclaimed, and this is a quote that I have earlier in the book, a quote from slaveholders, "Freedom is not possible without slavery." They were as confident, passionate, and wrong for the same reasons. They held status in a dominance hierarchy and knew in their guts that if they didn't maintain their status, that complacency could be fatal. We fear losing our lifestyles and even our lives if we act enough on sustainability to change culture. So we say, sustainability is important. I will act on it. I just have to do this one thing first, where that thing is our job, family, or unassailable value. In other words, we procrastinate instead of engage. We see engagement in sustainability as distraction from higher values and therefore deprivation and sacrifice. Procrastinating on sustainability feels tantamount to saving our lifestyles or even lives. My experiments questioned, challenged, and tested these cultural beliefs and found them wrong. What I can share nearly uniquely, as far as I know, is that engaging only looks like distraction, deprivation, or sacrifice. Procrastinating only looks like saving our lifestyles or lives. I know from practical experience, including my own and that of world-renowned leaders and regular working people, not just book knowledge or fear-based rationalizations and justification. Now, in the book, there's a little diagram that shows your choice, and you can go to procrastinate, which leads to misery and sickness, or engage, which leads to love, health, and glory. In 2024 and beyond, I know from practical experience that post-mindset shift, engaging on sustainability brings intrinsic reward, especially liberation. You'll wish you started earlier. When skilled in the Spodek method, you'll want to share and lead others because you know they will feel gratitude for liberating them. Regarding procrastinating for others' values, I hope this book has shown that for whatever your values, sustainability is upstream from them. Only with clean air, land, water, and food can we have health, safety, security, family, community, the economy, anti-racism, free markets, and democracy, to name a few. Start the Spodek method. You may struggle the first time, but keep at it. Humanity needs your help, your experience, and your connections. Act. Strive until you say in your way what Harriet Tubman did. If you hear the dogs, keep going. If you see the torches in the woods, keep going. If there's shouting after you, keep going. Don't ever stop. Keep going. If you want a taste of freedom, keep going. And then, when she reached free territory, quote, when I found I crossed that line, I looked at my hands to see if I was the same person. There was such a glory over everything. The sun came like gold through the trees and over the fields, and I felt like I was in heaven.
Powerful. So we do have one question, and that's from Nikki. Nikki, do you want to ask Josh your question?
So, as somebody who's been dabbling in environmentalism since I was 12, and took an ecology class in middle school, you know, just done little things, done them consistently, and never moved much beyond that. You know, I always go to people's houses and ask, well, where's your recycling bin? I've got a can, or things like that. And just got so frustrated at having to throw it in the garbage can that sometimes I take things home, which is ridiculous. But just, is it a one size fits all? Do you have to go to the extreme of Josh Spodek, or can you find some middle ground in the Spodek method? I haven't looked at it yet.
The Spodek method focuses on your intrinsic motivations. When you're acting on your passions, things that you love, other people may see you as extreme, but to you, you'll feel more true to yourself than ever. It, a lot of stuff is what I call paper versus plastic. And the answer is no bag at all. I mean, there are enough bags in the world right now. I mean, the bag I have that I go shopping with is I probably bought in the 90s, maybe the 80s, something like that. I don't need any bags. And am I extreme for not for bringing my own bag every time I go shopping? That if I go there and I forgot to bring the bag, I don't get anything. And that's how I learn not to forget it the next time. And it's intrinsically rewarding. The Spodek method is really inner. What's happening out there is the physical manifestation of what's on inside of us, and we're torn up inside. So people get through the Spodek method, and if I see a few names on here of who have gone through the workshop, they want to do more. Now, from your perspective, they may seem to be getting more extreme, but they're spending more time with their families. They're healthier. Evelyn, since writing the book, she wrote me and she said, she's like, Josh, I'm more fit now than I've ever been in my life. And that's not the goal. That's not the point. That's just a side effect of changing her diet and riding her bike a lot more where she used to drive. And, one of the other things was like, she used to drive to pick up her kids from the X. And then they started doing the bus instead. And one time she was like, I don't have time. I can't make the bus. Can you just put the kids on the bus? And, when I was a kid, I took a bus to the subway to school. And so our kids are maturing faster. They're more active. That's extreme in today's world. For children to be more mature younger, that's extreme. Yeah, compared to today's culture, we can be fairly extreme. But a lot of things, it's more traditional. I mean, I'm really much more traditional. I mean, I'm learning how grandparents did things. Actually, it's more great grandparents now.
So Nikki, the answer is it's what you want it to be. So you don't have to do it the way Josh is doing it.
Thank you.
Yeah. I have one more question and then we'll close for the night. Before I do that, I want to remind you again to please pick up a copy of Josh's book, Sustainability Simplified. Get it from your library or request it and leave an Amazon review. Of course, I want to thank Josh for being here. This is such a happy day. We've been counting down the days until we can do this with you. And then for everybody, we'll be back with a Monday night reading in the new year, in January. But Josh, this is the question that I wait to ask. It's my favorite question. And I already know the answer, but I want to hear your true vision for this, right? What is the change you want to see in the world because now your book exists?
It's subtle here because I do have a vision for a future in which sustainability is normal. Governments, corporations, billions of people all living sustainably. But what this book is about is that mindset shift. It's to change culture, to expect American first, but global overall, to expect that the more we act sustainably, the more we will like it. And we'll wish we had started earlier. Now, that's pure slope. That's not a big measurable shift, but no one's doing it. And as long as people think, all right, I'll do the first thing, but if that path leads to a Mad Max dystopia, I'm gonna sabotage attempts to reach it. So no one's working on that expectation of a brighter future. That's my change, is hearts and minds. To expect that if we act more, we'll like it. We'll wish we had earlier.
So proud of you, Josh. So proud of you. I'm so happy that this book exists in the world, and I can't wait to gift it to people this holiday season and for months and years to come. Thank you all for showing up for Josh. We'll see you in January, everybody. Take care.